Mr. Speaker, let me start by thanking Chairwoman Maloney and Chairman Frank for their continued commitment to this much-needed credit card reform legislation. I'm proud and honored to have worked with both of them to ensure the financial security of working families across America. As co-chair of the Congressional Consumer Justice Caucus, I'm strongly in favor of H.R. 5244, the Credit Card Holders' Bill of Rights. Mr. Speaker, today we have an opportunity to stand up for working families across America by passing legislation that will ensure the prosperity of the working class. And this legislation, Mr. Speaker, needs to be part of the financial markets rescue plan as we move forward to try to help people on Wall Street. We cannot leave alone the people on Main Street. Americans suffering under tremendous weight of this credit crisis. We have to do something, and this is what we can do about it. We're giving people relief from this incredible abuses in the credit card industry. The debt crisis inundating so many Americans is in large part due to the result of an industry with few regulations and little oversight. Consumers with credit cards nationwide are facing excessive credit card fees, sky-high interest rates, and unfair, incomprehensible agreements that credit card companies can revise at will. In short, American families are suffering while credit card companies are making record profits, Mr. Speaker. In 2007, credit card issuers imposed $18.1 billion, that's billion with a B, in penalty fees on families carrying credit card balances for more than 50% since 2003. This accounts for nearly half of the $41 billion industry profits. This year, credit card companies will break all record fees for late fees, over-limit charges, and other penalties, pulling in more than $19 billion. H.R. 5244 bans unfair and deceptive practices that have resulted in billions of dollars in fees drained from hardworking families for the credit card industry. Also included in the bill is a ban on universal default. Last May, I introduced legislation to ban this unfair, unethical practice, and I'm pleased to see it included in the bill. 30 seconds.
Additional 30 seconds.
Gentleman recognized for additional 30 seconds.
Also included, universal default is the popular term for a practice that allows creditors to increase the rate on your credit card to the default rate even when you haven't missed a single payment on that card. This means that we're going to look at real reform with this important piece of legislation. Madam Speaker, Mr. Speaker, I want to thank Chairwoman Maloney again for her valiant advocacy, and this does need to be a part of the rescue package. Thank you. Madam Speaker, let me thank the gentlelady from New York who's done absolutely heroic work on this bill. And let me echo her words. No more abdication from Congress. We are a co-equal branch of government, and it is time for us to do our job. Americans all over this country want to know, what does the Congress care about the debt that they're drowning in because of these credit card practices? If the Fed says they're deceptive practices, who are we to just let them go on and step back and say, well, somebody else will do it? No, it's time for the Congress to do something about it now. To do otherwise is to abdicate our responsibility. Nobody at the Fed holds an election certificate. All of us do. It's time to take this thing by the charge. The fact is, Madam Speaker, about $8,000 worth of credit card debt is what Americans are holding on average for people who have a revolving balance. That is a burden people cannot sustain. And the fact is, we would not be in this situation if we had the active regulation that the Americans expect from their government. We've seen now nearly 30 years of stagnating wages. Americans have had flat wages on average if you look at folks who are working hard every day to put food on the table. And because the wages have been flat, we haven't had the savings to buy the things that we need. And what has been happening is people have gone to the credit cards, and as we've gone to the credit cards, the credit card companies, some of them have been using unfair, deceptive practices that got to be brought to a stop now. If the Fed says they're wrong, they're wrong. We shouldn't have to wait on them to tell us what to do. We should do our job. And I just want to thank Chairwoman Maloney and Chairman Frank for bringing this bill to the floor now. I hope this bill can be wrapped into the rescue that is being contemplated for the financial meltdown that's going on now. This is what we should be doing, and it needs to go into effect now. We need to deal with the credit crisis now, and credit cards must be a part of it. Madam Speaker, thank you again for allowing me to address this final point. This issue that I put to our colleague and friend Mr. Campbell regarding whether or not deceptive practices that have been deemed to be deceptive by the Fed and that are prescribed in this legislation today, whether these things will result in rate increases or lack of availability. In fact, they will do the opposite, Madam Speaker. They will provide transparency, they'll provide fair rules, and most importantly, they will help to keep good lenders good. If you have a good lender, a good credit card company who is playing fair and acting ethically, and yet their competitors are allowed to engage in universal default and things like this, the net result will be that they will be at a competitive disadvantage when they don't do these unethical practices, things that the Fed has deemed to be unfair. So it's very important that we keep a nice level playing field and maintain the high standards in the industry. This is actually a bill that will help the credit card industry because it'll send a signal that the rules are fair, even, and ethics are the priority.